to be all about metabolism. So the first week we did inflammation, why inflammation is going to be bad for us. Besides weight, really, it's going to be more of a healthy eating challenge. We'll get kind of into the weight portion of it. So the goals today, we're going to learn how our bodies become resistant to burning fat. That's usually the most frustrating thing for people. These first couple of weeks, you change how you eat, or you think you're eating healthy, and your body still doesn't burn fat. You can step on the scale, it looks the same. You get discouraged and you stop. Number two, we want to understand what our adrenal glands are. We'll talk about what they are and how we've become fatigued. And general fatigue is running kind of rampant through our country now. That's why energy drinks exist, 5-hour energy, why they're booming now, because people generally have some form of adrenal fatigue. The last thing is we're going to review again the negatives of the inflammatory diet. Okay, so metabolism, we hear that word a lot. What is metabolism? Basically, it's a series of chemical reactions that keep an organism functioning to maintain life. So we have tons of physiology behind it, which we can take us probably about the first 2 hours to go through that tonight, and then the last hour we'll talk about just the we're not going to learn all that. We had to learn all that. We're going to skip to the meat and potatoes, what's important to you guys. Then there's a constant breakdown in our body and build up every day. So we discussed that through your care here. There's cartilage breaks down, builds up, red blood cells, have a lifespan of about 120 days. Our skin breaks down, builds up, and that's just kind of what metabolism does. So the first myth that we're going to talk about is eating fat makes you fat. Things are marketed, low fat this, low fat that, reduced fat. Eating fat is not what makes you fat. In fact, we've known this for 60, 70 years. The biggest study in Framingham was done where people ate the fattiest diets and they were the skinniest people. Okay? So, fat-free diets do not work, and generally they're unhealthy. So, the biggest fad, probably in the last decade was going to be this Atkins and then South Beach and whatever else. And what they did was they eliminated carbs. Has everyone kind of heard that before? Okay. Because that's what takes weight off of us. Fats, good fats, are essential for brain function, cell structure, balanced hormone production. So fats are good for us, depending on what type of fats we eat. We'll talk about that. Okay, they insulate our organs, they help us store vitamins, which is extremely important. They assist in mineral absorption, they reduce our hunger signals, and control blood sugar and promote weight loss. So when we have fat in us, it tells our body that we are full. It tells our body to start burning bad fat that we stored. So why do people not burn fat? Okay. People become weight loss resistant, and what they call it now is actually leptin resistant. Leptin's a molecule in us that's stored in fat cells. So the more fat that we take on, the more of this hormone we produce. These cells actually produce it. And what the cells are designed to do is tell us that we're full, tell us that we're hungry, and tell us our body to start burning this fat. Does that make sense? So we maintain kind of the proper portion of fat in our body and the proper portion of muscle. So how does people get leptin resistant or fat burning resistant? Tell them. What happened to the first one? That's crazy. Okay, so I don't know what happened to the first one. But basically what it says is that once we eat some form of carb or refined grain, really is what we talked about last time, which is bad carbs, refined sugar, our body, it's very easy for our body to digest this. So our body's always going to pick this to burn. Does that make sense to you? So if you eat a candy bar, go ahead.
One thing that I've got a lot of questions on, there's no loopholes with bread. I've gotten so many emails, people emailing me all kinds of different types of bread. Can I eat this? Can I eat that? I've looked for every loophole there is not one. Okay, we recommend sourdough because it has natural lactobacilli and natural yeast, but still that's not a great option. But if you need bread, try to do sourdough. I sent out an email about sourdough bagels. Well, those are hard to find. I meant sourdough English muffins. Those are the ones I use when I want bread. So a lot of people were emailing me, I can't find the sourdough bagels. So again, I just wanted to bring that up because there are no loopholes, but if you need that bread and you need that grains, either do the potato or, again, do the sourdough bread if you can. Just start having.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So let's say you go ahead and you do eat that bagel, okay? What happens to you immediately is your blood sugar rises, okay? So once your blood sugar rises enough, your pancreas produces insulin. Has everyone heard of insulin before? Okay. Insulin, what it's designed to do is to store that extra sugar for us so our blood sugar level becomes normal. What it does is it takes that sugar and then stores it into fat. Okay? Does that make sense? So we eat sugar, we eat grain, we eat bread, and it stores it as fat. Now, usually in unwanted places. So midsection, sometimes under the arm, every place that you've heard where people have a hard time losing weight. Okay, now we have fat. Those fat cells are constantly producing leptin, which is telling our body, let's burn fat. We have too much fat, burn fat. Okay. What happens is you eat another bagel, or you eat a sandwich, or you go to Subway and you eat their 7-grain bread, which is really garbage for us, and we have more sugar to burn. Make sense? So now we have all those fats telling us to burn fat, but now we just ate more grain, sugar, so our body's going to pick the fat, or is it going to pick the sugar again? Sugar. So now we have all this leptin in our body that's telling our body to burn fat, but it's continuing to burn the sugar. So the way usually we describe it to patients, it's like, that annoying mother-in-law in your ear saying, do this, do that, do this, and that, it's in you one without the other because you don't hear it. Because your body stops ignoring the leptin. So now we have all this leptin in our system that's telling us to burn fat, and our body won't do it. And this process happens enough, people become first insulin resistant, which is when we start to get into this pre-diabetes and this diabetic state, but they become leptin resistant. And that's what frustrates people the most, because then you start to change your diet and your body doesn't recognize the leptin. You still feel hungry. That's when you first start these diets for the first 2 weeks, and people crash. They never feel satisfied, those kind of things, because you're still craving sugar and you still have this leptin resistance happening.
So hang in there, because again, it happens to everybody. Especially if you don't have any energy, that's part of it. Like a lot of the stuff that we've gotten so far from other people is, I feel like I'm always eating, I feel like I have no energy. This is going to be one of the reasons why. So just hang in there. Again, after your body gets used to doing this for 30 days, then you're going to notice how much better you feel. Your body's going to start to get used to this. And then again, you're going to start going back to normally how you should burn, leptin and sugars and everything like that. So,
do we lose anyone on any of that? Because it's kind of a sometimes difficult concept to get. Do we understand a little bit?
Let me just.
Sure.
So you're saying that we may not lose a lot in the first 30 days, or is the first 30 days when you lose the most?
Well, it depends. If you totally cut out and you're like 100% good, you're going to lose probably 10 pounds in the first 2 weeks.
Okay.
Over the course of 30 days, you'll lose a lot, but it's just sometimes you don't feel like you're doing well because you don't have any energy, you don't feel good because your body is so used to having all this stuff, you take it away, it doesn't know what to do. It's almost like caffeine, like we spoke about earlier about coffee with Joe and Chrissy. Everybody's so used to drinking coffee, your adrenals stop firing because you got that caffeine as the stimulant. You go, what's that? Oh, we're getting there. I'm going to let Dr. Brian keep going. Sorry about that. You got me all going, and I got to keep talking.
I know. So let's say this. Let's say you're very good about it, or you're 80% good about it, and you cheat. Once you cheat a little bit, it's going to have a big effect on you because your body is still resistant to some of this leptin. Now, have you ever seen a kid in high school who said, he can eat whatever he wants and he just burns it right off because his metabolism is so good. He doesn't have any of this leptin resistance that he can eat something bad. Then in our 30s, we start eating bad, and then by the time we hit our 40s and our 50s, that's like, I have one thing and I put on 5 pounds. That's because you've taken it kind of to the limit. Does that make a little bit of sense to you? Okay. So to answer your question, it's a funny question. You are probably going to lose the most weight in the first 2 weeks, but you're going to be the most sensitive. If you cheat a little bit, it's going to have a big impact on you.
It's going to be nicotine, right?
Kind of
Cigarettes or alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, if you can